Welcome in to the Bobby Carpenter Show. I got my man Joshua Perry as we're now post spring game, couple weeks. Portal combat season is here, getting all that going, how the Buckeyes are looking there, and maybe it looks a little better than what people thought. Got a little draft talk coming up. We've got our tailgate talk questions from listeners, which we always love to answer your questions of what those are each and every week. And then also with that, we got a big guest today coming up here in our second block, and maybe we'll even convince him to stay for the third, Mr. Lathan Ransom, senior safety at Ohio State. On his decision to come back, I think, Joshua, was a very, very big one. But let's start off with this. Portal combat is here. The transfer portal is open. Buckeyes in this recent portal iteration, they lose Dallin Hayden, their third running back who we watched, I think he had close to 600 yards this freshman year, looked pretty good. Redshirted last year. Quinshon Judkins coming in, changed some things. Tony Alford leaving, changed some things. So he announced he was going to enter the portal, didn't practice the last week of spring ball. And then also now Cedric Hawkins, cornerback out of Florida, going to be a sophomore. He announced that he's going to get in the portal as well. But let's start with the big story there with Dallin Hayden getting in the portal. Kind of got buried leading into spring, but in the spring game. But kind of your thoughts about this. Where do you think he's going to land? How do you think it kind of impacts this running back room?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit more concerned about Dallin Hayden exiting before I watched the spring game, last week, and I felt confident because it looks like there's some good depth there. And of course, if the top two guys can stay healthy in that running back room, everybody feels really good about what's going on there. It's unfortunate for him because I know that he wanted to play the long game there, but there comes a certain point where you say, I got to play ball, especially if you want to make it to the next level. The only way to do that is to be on the football field. So I'm hoping for the best for him because you certainly saw flashes of that talent there. And I appreciate young people who are willing to be patient in this day and age. In terms of landing spots, I'm not exactly sure. And the spring portal is a tougher one to navigate because, teams, I think they're looking for starting level players in the postseason portal, and then the spring, if you could snap up a really good player, you feel like you're kind of getting lucky there. Everybody's got their roster shaping up, so you're looking for more depth pieces. So again, probably a situation where he's going to have to go in and really try to earn it. And so again, I'm not sure if he tries to get closer to home. I know people were thinking Tennessee might be an option there. It doesn't seem like there was a lot of momentum for that. And so I think it's a little bit of a waiting game, but whoever gets him, I think they're going to get the right type of guy in their running back room. What I mean by that is somebody who's willing to do the work, somebody who will understand that walking in the door, nothing is expected and everything's earned.
Absolutely. You're getting a high quality human, which is one of the things you always worry about in the portal, what type of guy you're getting. I would have said Dallin Hayden was probably the number one running back going into the portal, even though Joshua, he didn't have like a large body of work and film, which I think is good. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of wear on his tires. But then Oregon State's running back, Damian Martinez, also hopped in. Obviously, very, very talented player as well. So I would say those two guys, if you're in need of a running back, I mean, those are the two guys that you would be looking at based upon who has entered the portal thus far. There was the expectation, Joshua, that there was going to be, I thought, between 5 and 7 players get in the portal. There's only been 2 thus far in this post-spring window, which is a little surprising. Talk about Cedric Hawkins here in a minute, because you see guys starting to get pinched a little bit and guys start to see writing on the wall. And you look at this team, especially on the defensive side,
Yes.
and it's no different than a little bit what happened to Down, where you have a lot of really good corners. You start talking about, Denzel Burke, Davidson Igbenusson, who came in, who's been a straight dog, Jermaine Matthews. You've got Jordan Hancock playing inside, but if something happened and he needed to go outside, like, he can be an outside corner too, and you can always slide Lorenzo Styles in. So you have a lot of depth there. And then not to mention, I was writing down some of the young guys and like how they looked, and you saw, Calvin Simpson Hunt, who's in the same class as Cedric Hawkins, play really well in the spring game. And then they really like the 2 young guys they got, Aaron Scott, who's out of the Dayton area, and then Bryce West out of Arizona, 2 true freshmen that are here. And so I think Cedric Hawkins, you look around, Joshua, and it's like my pathway to play, tough this year, and it's probably not getting any easier in the next couple seasons.
That was the room that I was looking at was the DB room, right? And they got a ton of really good players there. And you're selling patience to those guys. I think you're selling development too, right? Like, hey, if you
Yeah.
play here and you have a couple good seasons, you got an opportunity to be a first round pick. And I think that really matters to some of the players that are being developed within that room. I agree with you in terms of the defense was probably where I was looking to see some transfers. And you mentioned 5 to 7. I wouldn't have been shocked if there would have been upwards of 10 guys that got in that portal. But I think this speaks to two things. And, Ryan Day's taken some shots over the last year, and I think some of them have certainly been warranted. I think others, I think just crazy things that have been said. But one of the things is talking about culture and lost the locker room and do these guys respect them? And I think the answer clearly has been yes. You got a lot of guys to come back, and NIL is a component in that. But what we've seen so far with guys not being so eager to throw their hat into the portal, I think it talks about what they believe this team could be and their belief in their head coach. The second part about this, and I think you have to leverage this. It's going to become a bigger thing. If you are a championship team, you're thinking 17 games this season. You need depth, right? Like everybody, we can talk about starting lineup, all 22 guys that are going to be out there. You need depth in this day and age. And I think if you're Ryan Day and if you're Jim Knowles and if you're Chip Kelly, you're probably walking into your meeting rooms and you're saying, I know you're not a starter. You will play because we need you to play. We need guys to be healthy to make it through the stretch run. And I think some people are hearing that and saying, I know I'm good enough to be on that football field. I'm going to earn my reps through training camp, and I know they're going to rotate guys.
Well, because you look around before in a 12-game schedule, like, can I get 400 to 500 reps? And if you're doing that, like, okay, I need to play 40 or 50 reps a game. Well, all of a sudden now you start looking and expand that, Joshua, to 16, 17 games. Like getting 400 to 500 reps of quality film against good teams is a lot easier. And I will say this, like you said, championship caliber teams, people want to be part of winners. That's critical. The second piece, like you mentioned, it's a lot of games. There's going to be chances to get a lot of reps against high quality opponents, which everyone looks to the NFL. Like they want to see you play against the Bamas, the Georgias, LSU, Texas, Michigan. Like they don't really necessarily care about what's happening, in maybe a non-conference game against a group of 5 school. But there's 2 other big elements I think are critical in this when you see teams that just have guys diving in the portal all the time. Number 1 for me is it starts at the beginning. You're recruiting the right type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's someone who's not just looking at this and looking at that. Where else is here? I want an easy road. The guys know, hey, you've got to come, you've got to improve. And the second piece of that, and it goes into the first piece, is you've been honest with them from day one when you recruit them. You tell them where they're at. You tell them they're planning to get on the field. You tell them what they need to get better at when they're not on the field. And you have that open dialogue and communication. When you do those things, all that together, those probably 4 elements, you're going to be able to have a team that's pretty sustainable. And you always have some departures. And like Dallin and Cedric, I don't blame those guys. Like they saw a better pathway other places. And it's the reality of what, college football has become. And they want to be on the field. But you're not going to see guys who probably shouldn't be in there entering the portal needlessly. So that is great to see. Very excited. So make sure, we're going to continue to talk about this and some other things that are coming, a little draft talk and everything else. But up next, we got our guy, Mr. Lathan Ransom, a big culture component of this team, starting free safety for a number of years. He's had an unbelievable journey. We'll sit down and talk with him next here on the Bobby Carpenter Show. All right, welcome back into the Bobby Carpenter Show, featuring my man Joshua Perry. And pleased now to welcome in one of my favorite players who I've got to watch his career transpire over the last 5 years, Mr. Lathan Ransom, joining us now. And Lathan, welcome into the program. Happy to have you here. First of all, how are we feeling coming off, the Liz Frank, the foot injury that so abruptly ended your season last year?
Yeah, I'm feeling good now, man. I mean, it was definitely a tough way to end my season, but like you see me in the training room, just been living in the training room, man. Stu's my best friend in there, with the trainer Stu, and just taking spring, and now we have a 3-week break right now. I'm gonna stay here and just continue my rehab. I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. So just trying to do all I can to be back and be 100%.
Yeah, I want to dive into that relationship a little bit with you and Stu. And everybody talks about him. Got a chance to see him. He came in as a student trainer. He's alum here. He's with the Patriots. He's been everywhere. What makes him so good at his job? Because every player that's had some major stuff, or even guys that have had minor things, like they always talk about how great he is.
I think Stu does such a great job of being someone you can go and talk to, and I think for different players when they're going through some tough situations, whether it's on the field, back at home. I mean, when you're in that treatment room one-on-one with Stu, he's a person you can vent to and kind of bounce ideas off of. So that's someone I've always been able to, being from Arizona, to talk to and to kind of learn from. And I think just with me personally, I mean, as much effort as I'm putting in my treatment, man, he's putting twice as much effort to try to get me as back as fast as possible, get me back to be as strong as I was, man. So man, I love Stu. Me and my dad always joke about, man, Stu's gonna be in my wedding. Whenever my wedding happens down the future, man, he's gonna be there, man.
And Stu is definitely the man. Spent some days in the training room with him as well, and he used to get me right here. But came back for the 5th year, and I want to get into that decision a little bit. But before I do, just your perspective now as a player who's been around that, been around the Woody for a while. How different is it now being the true veteran guy in that building?
Man, it's really different. I think back just looking now, I'm gonna just talk about the DBs at first. The relationship that all the DBs had this year, especially, man, it's unlike any other I've been a part of, man. The leaders between me, Denzel, IGB, Jordan Hancock, dudes like that, really taking that leadership role and making sure that we holding everyone accountable. And we make sure we, as the freshmen, know every day, man, when you step on that field, you're putting on for BIA, putting on for the Silver Bullets. And I think what I've learned from when I first got here is you can't take any of these days for granted. Like every day you're going in, it's a job. You're going in as a job. You're going in to handle business. And I think I always tell the younger dudes, the faster you guys grow up and realize that you're not just here to be in college and enjoy the cause. Now you're here for a business. You're here to go in every day and do your dues, man. And that's one thing that I've learned. I try to instill into the young dudes. So, but yeah, man, I've learned a lot. Been through some adversity, man. So I've had a long journey.
All right, so the opportunity presented itself to come back for the 5th year, and you're a guy we've all watched blossom on the field. I thought that you have made some really important plays, almost in an unsung way here, but now you get to the end of the season, you're looking at the NFL draft. Obviously, a dream for everybody, something that you want to achieve. You're also looking at an opportunity to come back to a place that you love, where certainly there's some unfinished business that we'll talk about here in a second. What went into your decision to come back to be an Ohio State Buckeye?
I think just thinking about speaking from some dudes I know in the NFL that used to be Buckeyes here, and from players now, just don't leave college, don't leave Ohio State regretting things, regretting stuff that you couldn't accomplish, stuff that you couldn't do. And my biggest goal going into last season was beat the team on North was my biggest goal. Like that's people say that, but like that's all I wanted because I mean, just being here, I have no gold pants. Like that's kind of hard to say. And me and my friends always talk about when we talking to dudes that used to play, like you and Bobby, like we're having a conversation, but like it's hard to have that conversation knowing in the back of our head that we don't have a pair of gold pants yet. So it's hard to feel like we're really a part of that brotherhood yet without those pants. So I think just having that in the back of my head, knowing that, man, I really want one more shot. And I really felt like I could have made a difference in the game, and just having to watch was extremely hard on me. So having that in the back of my head, and then being a captain is something that is a big goal of mine. So just having the opportunity to come back and hopefully achieve that, man, those were two things I had circled that I haven't accomplished yet and would love to do before going to the next level.
How tough was it watching the game this year? Like, I mean, getting a chance to obviously play a lot. You've had some injuries throughout your career, but obviously happened there, and then watching what happened as a spectator and not being on the field. What were the emotions going through you at that point?
It's hard to explain, man. I mean, it's not too often you get to sit back and almost be a fan, but that's kind of what I was, and just having to see the ups and downs of the emotion, watch what my teammates had to go through, watch mistakes that were made, watch plays that could have been made. It was hard. It was extremely hard, but I think it just was that much more motivation to come back and make a difference and to come back and win it this year.
Now, I wanted to ask you about how you see your role on the football field, and watching you, I feel like, I appreciate kind of the role that you play. I see a little bit of myself in it, where, you're a guy out there who's a field general. You're typically in the right spot where you need to be. But once again, it might not be like all of the headlines. I played with some really good players, and they deserved some of the headlines that they get. But when you go out on that football field, and you mentioned being a captain here as one of your goals, like what do you see from yourself in terms of your leadership and how you command the defense?
Yeah, so I'll say, like you said, I appreciate you saying those things about me, first of all. But I think at first, when I started playing the defense, I didn't appreciate that what you just talked about. Like I got frustrated as a junior, maybe like, man, I'm not getting the accolades I deserve, or I'm not getting the stuff I deserve. But and it took maturing because then when you don't get those accolades, you start to press and you start to make mistakes that you normally don't make. So I had to learn from that, honestly. And when I stepped back and realized, man, if everyone on the defense just does their own job, those plays are going to come and the defense is going to play so much more sound. So I think as a leader, that's what I can kind of show and show from my own experiences, man. Everyone just needs to do their own job and handle their own responsibilities. And once they can do that, man, we'll be the best defense in America. So I think by that, and then one thing I took from being hurt right now is just learning everything I can learn about the defense. Any position, the nickel, corner, trying to know what the D line, the front's doing, just to have as much knowledge as I can. To, like you said, kind of be that field general and kind of help everyone. And we need to make adjustments, or I'm seeing something to help the coaches, just to be an extra coach on the field. So that was my goal, and that's the leadership I feel that I'm bringing.
You speak about that, the leadership and all the elements. You're looking back on your freshman year with this, you're the young guy and you played early in your career before, obviously, suffering some injuries and different things have happened. What do you take from those guys when maybe you were a freshman, sophomore, that group that was really talented, some of those leaders that you were around in the secondary and on the defense?
Yeah, I always look at my favorite leader was Coop. Jonathan Cooper was my favorite leader when being here. He was just someone that obviously played great on the field, but someone that could really get everyone locked in when maybe the defense is a little rattled. He give us a speech and stuff just to keep us calm down, because I think that's the biggest thing of leadership that I want to learn from him and kind of instill this year, just having a more vocal, being a better vocal leader than just a leader that just tries to go by the way I act and the way I play on the field.
Absolutely. Lathan, that's been fantastic. You got time to stick around a little bit longer?
Oh, of course, man. I appreciate y'all, man. I really look up to you, to Bobby and Joshua, man. You guys are two guys that I want to take after football and be like this. So this is fun, man. Let's keep it going.
Perfect. Well, we'll take a quick break here. More with Lathan Ransom on the Bobby Carpenter Show after this. All right, welcome back into the program here. We still got our guy Lathan Ransom, one of my favorites. I've seen you, Lathan, and watched you kind of evolve and grow, but you're a West Coast guy. You come to this Ohio State, far away from family, from friends. You're traveling out from Arizona. And what drew you here? What got you to Columbus, Ohio to be a Buckeye?
I think the history. I always love to tell people that. I mean, man, when I was first getting recruited, growing up, I didn't watch very much Ohio State football. Like you said, I was watching Oregon, USC, Arizona, UCLA, teams like that. So once I had got the Ohio State offer, my dad made it a way bigger deal than I honestly I thought it was. So I started doing my research, man, and started learning about the Silver Bullets and the history in this school. And it was just something I just wanted to be a part of. And then just seeing the defenses that have played before me with Chase Young, Jeff Okuda, and just seeing them on the biggest stage balling out. I mean, it's hard to be a recruit and not want to be a part of that. So obviously it's easy to say, oh, I want to be a part of the brotherhood. But when you get here and you really learn the brotherhood after committing here, man, it's something that is unlike any other place I've been to or talked about.
Well, you just mentioned watching some of the West Coast college football back when you were growing up, the USC, UCLA, you got Oregon, Washington now coming into the Big Ten. And I know that's been a big talking point for us in the media, but how are you in the locker room looking at the opportunity to play some of these big brands out of the West Coast?
Oh, man, I'm excited. I'm really excited. Some of the schools that obviously recruited me, and I'm really excited to see how these Pac-12 teams transition into the Big Ten, because it's a different type of football, man. I always joke around like it's different when it's October, it's freezing cold, and Penn State's running the ball every play of the game. So I'm really excited to see how those teams do, man. And then like different offenses that the Pac-12 is bringing, a lot of air raid and a lot of more opportunities for the DB. So I can't wait to be a part of it.
It'll be fun. I know everybody's excited. Some big games, big broadcasts. You guys had some big players that have been added to the team, and one in your room particular. And there's been some movement there. It was last year. It was you. It was Josh Proctor, Sonny Styles. You guys moving around, kind of doing some things. You get hurt. Malik started playing a little more. Hartford, and then all of a sudden, Sonny moves to linebacker. Caleb Downs, who I don't know how much you knew about him prior, comes in from Bama. What has it been like with that shift with Sonny moving down to the linebacker room and then Caleb coming in to play alongside?
I think first of all, Sonny's done a great job of a transitional linebacker. He's just embraced that role, and I feel like you can either react two ways. You can be feel sorry for yourself, or you can embrace the role. And man, he's embraced him and making a lot of plays. And Caleb, he comes in, man. And I've loved being able to work with him and learn from him. He's a sponge. He wants to watch as much film as anybody else. Live in the training room, get your body right. Live on the field, stay after. So being able to compete with him and play with him so far it's been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see what we do on the field together.
Well, here's the thing. One more piece on that is, do you feel more confident now that Sonny's the linebacker? I know that you love to do hit those guns in the weight room. Like nobody loves to do arms, Joshua, quite like Lay. But the thing is, I don't know if you had the genetics to be able to catch Sonny. And so now you can take that mantle back over.
First of all, I love to do arms so much is because I was a skinny guy growing up. So always seeing skinny in the mirror. Once you get a little muscle, you don't want to get back to being skinny. So that's why I lift so much. But I think first of all, Sonny, I feel like he's grown also. When I be out there and I stood next to him the other day, I looked at him, I said, I swear you might have grown like 2 inches since we played safety. So I don't know, but moving the linebacker gave him a growth spurt or something. But he looked great out there, man. And he's flying around making a lot of plays. So I'm excited to see what he does.
Man, Bobby knew me when I was 17 years old, and I was a skinny guy too. So I used to be in there doing TV guns like crazy. And I agree with you. Once you see a little bit of muscle there, you do not want to stop. I wanted to ask about one of the major changes we've seen over the last few years in college football, and that's name, image, and likeness. And Bobby and I probably sit here and lament sometimes that we didn't have opportunities. But, outside of just making money, which I think people look at, it's been really unique in terms of brand building for guys like yourself, in terms of networking for guys like yourself. So what have been some of the positives that you've seen in your life with name, image, and likeness in the fold?
Yeah, first of all, the big positive was, like you said, being from the West Coast. My first 2 years, 3 years, my parents couldn't come to 1 to 2 games a year. They couldn't come to any game. So that was tough being able to, like, I remember the first play I made against Penn State, I had 1 tackle. I'm running to my phone to FaceTime my parents talking about, yo, did you guys see it on TV? So just for them to be here and kind of experience some of those moments in person, man, it's been something I'm blessed to be a part of. But then, like you said, the name, image, and likeness, being able to meet people and brand with people that I would have never had the opportunity before NIL. So being able to create my brand, expand my brand, has been something I'm blessed to be a part of.
You talked a little bit about coming back and everything in this brotherhood and everything that, it's been unique and the connectivity here. And, another guy that I kind of put in a similar situation to you, Cody Simon, who has been through his ups and downs in his career. Last year ended up playing a ton. Tommy goes down, Steele goes down, really smart player, heady guy, gets it, understands it. When you decide to come back and then you see, Cody coming back and then obviously Jack and JT, and were there conversations that happened? I mean, was there anything that was said between you guys that, not that you're all doing it together, but having a conversation about, listen, what's important and maybe what we want to accomplish?
No, that definitely happened. I remember we had a big meeting in the team room, all dudes that had the possibility to leave, possibility to come back. And basically we kind of just talked about, like, we have an opportunity to come back and do something really special for this school, really special for this community. And we all agreed that if we put just selfishly some of our goals, our dreams that we had aside to come back and do something for the Silver Bulls, do something for Ohio State, I think that it was something that we all agreed was what we wanted to do. So that's the biggest example I've seen of the brotherhood since I've been here. So just to be a part of that, man, is special.
Lathan, one more here for me. And you mentioned the special things that you want to do. And I think everybody's fully aware of what this team is capable of if they're playing at their top level here. But if you had to pick one key for this team to achieve their ultimate goal, what would you say that is?
I would say that for no one to go out there and try to do too much, like we kind of talked about earlier, everyone just go out there, do their job, man, and focus in on that. We have one goal. We put all the distractions aside for how many months? 5 months. If we can all just lock in and put a distraction aside, put maybe our goals after aside, and just focus on our one goal, winning each game, winning each play, man, I think we'll be very hard to beat.
A couple for me here quickly. Matt Guerrieri comes back, help coach safeties. You were here when he was here earlier, leaves, comes back. What is his return meant, and like his understanding of this defense that I've played in a lot of different schemes, and I know Josh was saying it's pretty unique of how it's played.
Yeah, man. I think Matty G is one of the smartest coaches I've ever been around. When they brought him back, I was super excited. I was really close to Coach Eliano. So when they brought Coach E back, man, that was even more motivation for me to come back. And I think God works in mysterious ways. So me having a good relationship with him leaving, him coming back for our last year, man, I think it's something really special, and I think we're going to achieve a lot of things together.
And then lastly, I'll ask you this kind of a big question. You know, I know you're a younger guy, like trying to look at this, and now in the middle of, April, trying to see what it all could be at the end. But, when you look at the end of this season, you look at like fast forward all the way done. You never want to do this. How do you want this season to be remembered? What do you want to have outside of the wins and losses? But like, what do you want to take away from this?
Yeah, so I think some advice that I got from Kay Sober and Tommy Eichenberg, who were 50-year guys, they said, man, it was the most fun they had since playing here. So for me, I think just to go in and have the most fun I can possibly have playing these games and just leave a legacy. Leave a legacy being a dude from Tucson, Arizona, coming to Ohio State to play with the Buckeyes, man, be a part of the Silver Bulls. I just want to be a player that was remembered as one of the toughest players out there, hard-hitting safety, man, that was a leader. That's my biggest goals for this upcoming season.
That's tremendous, man. I always said, part of the legacy of Ohio State, not only what you did, but what your room is when you leave, and were you able to kind of pass some of that on? And it's you guys have a great room there, and hopefully it continues to grow. You have great players in it. Lathan, thank you so much for spending some time with Joshua and I. We really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you guys having me, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Coming up next, we got our Tailgate Talk where we answer your questions, brought to you by Tipico Sportsbook. Welcome back into the show. And how great was that with Lathan? One of my favorite players, as Urban Meyer would always say. One of my all-time favorites. Love Lathan. He was mature from the jump, and you see that, and you see his story and everything that he's been through. But some big news, Joshua, on the legislative side of the NIL front. They've been trying to do stuff nationwide. We know that doesn't work. It's going to take forever, but individually, state bills have gotten things done, and that's why we're in this NIL situation and kind of a mess that we really are, to be frank about it. Virginia just passed a bill taking it to the next level, because none of the bills before and none of the NIL has a school been able to directly pay the player for NIL, not for their services on the field, but for something else. This bill with Virginia will allow them now to directly pay players coming from state institutions. How big of a movement is this to you?
I think it could be huge. And I'm looking at, a lot of players that are coming in, and like guys and gals even are demanding, like a base salary just to be on the roster. The collective has to try to come up with. And I think this is an easy way to say, we'll get you involved in promotions and marketing with our athletic department, and we can assign a true value to that. And like every spot on the roster will have a value. And so I think from just a base standpoint, you can give yourself an advantage. The thing that I would like to see, honestly, and I know there are going to be some people who hear this and they are going to hate it, but I would like to get to a place where the schools are in control of name, image, and likeness funds, and the idea of the collective can disappear, because I think the collectives have really muddied the waters. I don't think that folks are truly being paid for what you would consider a name, image, and likeness. And I think in a revenue share, there's an easy way to come up with the structure of, here's what you get on the way in. If you are the quarterback, we'll come up with ancillary marketing opportunities for you based off of play. We could even get you some performance bonuses. Like if you're somebody who played more than we anticipated, you probably deserve a little bit more value out of it. And now the collectives aren't just creating numbers just to get guys on campus, which I think is kind of ridiculous. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that shift coming here. But the idea of schools being able to directly pay athletes is something that I think makes a lot of sense. And especially if we're looking at the conference that we cover in the Big Ten, a lot of money coming through. A little rev share never hurt.
Well, and I think that solves all the problems. If you can get it in-house, you don't have to worry about any, and it's different at different schools, but the nefarious characters that you would have to worry about and not that all collectives are bad, but
right.
you know, and not that it's just easier handling in-house. Now there's going to have to be some legislation that kind of handles that and deals with it. And I don't know the Title IX elements and how all that's going to work, but they talked about Virginia, this being the first step of hopefully becoming this to be nationwide, where we talked about the new deal that they just got for the 12 team playoff. It's going to be even bigger. It was like, what, another 650, $700 million that's coming into the coffers. When you pay the players, then you can put restrictions around transfer, around different things. And I'm still for guys being able to transfer. I think one time is perfect without penalty.
Sure.
So that way you understand the consequences of what you're doing. But I think this is that next logical step. So hopefully this will incentivize. I don't know who the governing body is or what this looks like. And I don't know if you need a true union, Joshua, as opposed to like some sort of organization that
I
represents
agree
the
with
players.
that.
Like, I mean, there's ways to be able to get this done to where both sides agree to, hey, you get X number of dollars from this, and then we also can get you marketing dollars and whatever on top of it. And then committing to that, then when you commit to a school, you can transfer from there one time. And if you graduate, then you can transfer one more time because I like that rule as well if you go through the
Sure.
whole process. But as opposed to being like, hey, I came here, I didn't like it, I transferred out after spring. Oh, by the way, then I didn't like it again. I'm going to transfer back to my original school. And also with the collectives, you know, I brought up and I was talking to my local show and some XM about Jaden Rashada, the quarterback
Yes.
at Arizona State. I don't want him to be the new Tate Martell, but you feel like there could be some elements of that where, you know, he committed to Miami or Florida first, one of the two, and like the
Yeah.
collective, the 16 million or whatever kind of fell apart. And then he was let out of his letter of intent, went, you know, committed somewhere else. And then he ends up at Arizona State and he's there and he plays some this year. And now he's transferring. It looks like he's going to go to Georgia. And so you get a situation where like you were really kind of, you know, committed, letter of intent, school. I mean, this is all like one calendar year that all these things have happened. And so it's kind of wild and crazy to see how this has all transpired. And hopefully this gets it to the point where there's school control and it's able to progress in a more like just structured manner. Joshua, I'll give you the last word here.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Jaden Rashada too, because when I was, talking about collectives, like that's the thing that I'm thinking about. There have been some predatory things that have happened, some promises that haven't been fulfilled, and quite frankly, I think the collective model is really difficult because there's part of this where they're promising money that they don't necessarily have today.
Yeah.
They got to go fundraise to get it, and so there is this idea that the money might not actually be there when it's time to make payments. And so as easily as we can get around some of those issues and have a more controlled and structured environment, the better I think the sport is going to be.
Favorite segment coming up next, Tailgate Talk, where we answer your questions, brought to you by Tipico Sportsbook. All right, we've got some Tailgate Talk here brought to you by Tipico Sportsbook. They're going to change the way you bet with their new Tipico Rewards program. The more you bet, the more you earn, the more you win. And to celebrate this big play, we're holding our own company-wide contest to see which of our shows can climb the leaderboard to prove that they're the best bettors here at Big Play. The winning show, they may even give out some credits to their listeners each month. We'll see how that goes as the season progresses through the summer. But be sure to follow along with your favorite Big Play personalities on social media to lock in your bets with us all week long. Got NBA playoffs cruising along right now. So a lot of stuff to get in with some action right there. We'll see if the Cavs can take down the Magic and make everybody in Cleveland happy. Remember, it must be 21 years or older to gamble. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And first of all, thank you to everybody who's tuning in. We appreciate it. Whether it's on Bally's, social media, YouTube, like, subscribe, leave comments. We're getting to all this. Hopefully continue to expand it. Had a great show today with Lathan Ransom. Super pumped to have him join. Josh, we got a question here coming at you, and this is kind of a unique one. Kind of a big picture question just for your career. What's y'all's favorite trash talking stories from your Buckeye days, or who was the best trash talker?
This is always a fun one to visit. I played with a number of guys from Glenville. Devin Bogard, a guy, rest in peace, unfortunately passed
Oh,
in
yeah.
a house fire. One of the best smack talkers I have ever known. Chris Worley, all he did was run his mouth. Cardale Jones running his mouth. That's what those guys, they came out the womb talking smack. And so I think they were some of my favorites. There was also Darren Lee, who is one of the loosest cannons that I've ever known. And I was texting with him earlier today on the day we record this. And he's just like, you never know what you're going to get from old D Lee, but shout out to my guy. He talked smack to Lane Kiffin during the Sugar Bowl. Like he was on the opposing sideline yelling at Lane Kiffin. So I feel like I had the opportunity to be around some generational smack talkers.
See, that's pretty good. Most of the guys who I played with throughout my career, like Schlegs wouldn't really talk trash. AJ was the worst trash talker of anybody. And he'll like self-admit that. He goes, guys would say stuff and he's like, I usually just drop like an F you and you suck afterwards. Like that was like the extent of what I had. Like people were like, hey man, I played some like Chris Gamble, first round corner, played 9 years in the NFL, great player. They're like, man, was Chris a great trash talker? I go, I don't even think Chris talked on the field at all. Like he wouldn't say a word. They were probably the best trash talker. Well, we check this. We did have Dante Whitner, and he falls in line with the rest of the Glenville gang, who always just it's all those guys. Like, I mean, Dante was like 5'10" maybe, and he was just like a little pit bull, but just always like chirping, dude. He's like the little Yorkie, like the lap dog, just always picking at everybody. He's this, he's that. I'm better. I mean, it was remarkable. But probably the other guy that was really good was Dustin Fox. And, Dustin, super Christian guy in school, never cursed at anybody, but he's a white dude playing corner. And so he would just like drop that bomb on dudes when they'd be talking trash, this and that. And he's like, yeah, dude, you just got locked down by a white guy out here. And like guys would get so mad and be yelling at him. I remember other guys have to go and get in the middle. He just turn and walk away and like shrug his shoulders and just kind of laugh it off. But that was kind of the extent of our defense. Like Will Smith, it's crazy. You bring up Bogey, like Will Smith, the great Will Smith passed away, but didn't really talk a lot of trash. Like those guys were all just kind of let the play do the talking.
Yeah,
and,
that was me. Like somebody asked me if I was a trash talker, and I said, I was too tired. Like I'm trying to get the front set. I'm talking to the guys in the field. Like I don't have enough energy to do it after the play. There would be times where I would make a play and I would fake yell. Like they show the reaction shot and say, you gotta be doing all that. And there would not be a sound coming out. It would be a fake yell because I'm trying to conserve energy.
Absolutely. I'm with you. When you got to make calls, which a lot of linebackers do, like there's not a lot of time to talk trash. D. Lee can be over there running his mouth because you're just going to tell him what the call is. He doesn't have to worry and look over and try to figure that out. And I guess one last question too that people probably want to know: did Bosa talk a lot of trash? Because I don't think he was a big trash talker, if I remember.
Bosa was very much the AJ Hawk of the group, where he would just look at a dude and be like, "Bro, I'm a first round pick. You stink. Don't even try to approach me right now."
All right, coming up, we're going to wrap up the show. We've got some NFL draft news. It's coming up. It's this week. It is finally here. What do we think about some of the Buckeyes and where they're going to go? We'll find out here next on the Bobby Carpenter Show. All right, final segment of the program here. Draft, it's here. It's right here. Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday up in Detroit, Michigan. Joshua, they keep talking. These quarterbacks keep climbing and climbing the board, which is what always happens. I still think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the first position player off the board, though, who's not a quarterback.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And it's funny, like you see all the mock drafts and the trade scenarios. It's looking like Marv's going to fit in either at 4 or at 5. And whoever gets him is going to get a guy right away. I think his skill set translates. So I'm super excited to see him. The quarterback thing is always so funny to me. And you mentioned it, like, when you need a quarterback, you end up overdrafting a guy, but the expectations that you set end up being a little bit incongruent to what maybe the skill set is coming in the door. So I'll be curious to see exactly how the draft board falls, but Marv, boy's getting ready to get paid and he's about to set the league on fire.
Oh, he's good. And then I think next, probably Mike Hall. He tested really well. He's got some great numbers, had some injury issues. I think he's a guy that's probably not going to get out at the end of that second round because people love pass rush.
He's a second round pick for me, no doubt. And I think that's what everybody's seeing there. And you look at the top defensive tackles right now, they're all guys that are 300 pounds and under because people are looking at the pass rush ability. I think it's a new premium position here. Obviously, we talked about quarterbacks and you got your wide receivers. Those are guys you see go high. But outside of that, you're looking at edge rushers, you're looking at cornerbacks. And I think that third premium position on defense is a guy who can get you the rush from the interior.
Absolutely. And then one guy who I think, through 3 position changes at Ohio State made himself a lot of money in a nice NFL career. I think Cade Stover is going to probably be like that 4th or 5th tight end off the board. And probably if you want like a true inline wide tight end that can give you some passing, and then if you need him to play special teams, you need him to play some defensive stuff for depth, just of everything he's done. I think Cade Stover probably goes in the 3rd round.
I think there's a lot of value on Cade Stover. I think he's underestimated in a lot of ways. You mentioned it, right? Like he can do your traditional tight end stuff. Listen, I'd split him out. I mean, the way he ran and some of the catches that we saw on tape there, like, and it was big moments where you needed to move the chains. Like it feels like a guy who's going to end up playing a really long time in the NFL because he's super consistent. He's got a really good skill set. And to your point, he'll do anything the team needs to do to be successful.
The linebackers, Tommy and Steele, you feel probably somewhere 3 to 5, maybe 4 to 5, depending on how that breaks out. Off the ball guys, it's kind of a devalued position now.
Yep.
But both those guys, veteran players, really good dudes, play special teams. They know what they're about, smart guys. I think 4 to 5 there. The intriguing guy for me is going to be 2 of them, Mayan Williams and Xavier Johnson, because Mayan obviously has been productive but been hurt. And then Xavier, walk on, who becomes a scholarship player, plays special teams. He can do a lot of stuff. I think he'll be a steal for someone probably in like round 5 or 6.
Yeah, I mean, the other one I'm looking at too is Josh Proctor, and he's got the injury concern there as well. Physical throwback type of guy. He's got good range. He can run. I think there's value on him as well, and you're probably looking at round 4 or 5 for that.
Well, that is it for this edition of the Bobby Carpenter Show. Stay tuned next week. We'll break down the draft, a lot of new stuff. Thank you, Joshua, and thanks for tuning in.